People think, oh, I dig up this thing and I'm neutral and I'm so honest and I will present the facts. This is the reality. This is the founders of fossils. So what is this saying? If such be the priest, God bless the congregation. Corrupt, morally corrupt.
And they have blind trust in these people.
If such people are the ones who are digging up, if these are the people who are going to present you these views and you are going to accept them, then God bless you. Yeah. He said he wanted to display the marsh fitted one specimen with a skull found nearby and the other with a skull he found in Colorado. Boom. Voila, that was Brontosaurus. This is how Brontosaurus came about. Mm. And this is the one that this is the dinosaur that my kids and your kids are they shoved down the throat. This was even more interesting. Actually, this caused big problem with Marsh and the co. What he did in his rush to do this thing, he placed the tail in place of the tail. He put it in the neck, so it looked like a long neck dinosaur, and then the people made fun of him. He said, "What did you do?" So he had to Can you imagine that? The tail and the leg. Has anyone heard about it? No. Think about it. If Ali makes a mistake today, what happens? Before the day is over, you have like five WhatsApp messages. A fossil was found in West Virginia, and it was sent to President Jefferson because he was a avid collector of fossils, and he came up and says, "You know what this is? This is a giant cat." Blah 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 blah. Okay? Turns out he was wrong. It was a giant sloth. You know the difference between a cat and a sloth? A cat is, how fast cat is? Mm-hmm. It's the exact opposite of fast. A sloth takes about 6 hours to move from the bottom of the tree to the top of the tree, or vice versa. 6 hours. They sleep more than 18 hours a day. So an opposite of a cat would be a sloth. Do you see how wrong you can be? Where's Brother Fawad? Yeah. He's talking. You can get a footprint of a person, but to extrapolate other information is difficult. Interesting. These are some depictions among the mushriks. They had their gods like this, and the fossils are like this. What does it tell you? What does it tell you? I leave these things to you guys. You. So let's look at paleontology, today's presentation. So that was the introduction. So I hope you get the background from which we are going to approach the subject. Paleontology is the scientific study of life that existed prior to and sometimes including the start of the Holocene epoch. That's how they define it. It's nothing new. Fossils are nothing new. Fossils have been known since back, ancient times. And you can see this connection between paleontology itself is the study of speech, thought, and study. Again, your philosophical outlook comes in. By the very definition of paleontology, you can see that your philosophical outlook in this study of the fossils will come in. What is speech? What is thought? What is study? It's all philosophical, your value system, your belief, your worldview point, whatever you want to call it. Now it includes, study from biochemistry, mathematics, and engineering. Just think about it. Incorporating mathematical thinking, does it make it more solid? We went through mathematics. Does it mean because I'm applying mathematical, knowledge to paleontology and study, does it become more valid? Is it? As knowledge has increased, now let me ask you, I will come to this very phrase. That's what we think, knowledge has increased. Everybody agrees that knowledge increases. I will come to it towards the end of our talk. One thing we should point out here is paleontology is not an empirical science. It is a historical science. And there's a fundamental difference between historical science and experimental science. And that is not the topic of our lecture today, so we will not study that, but just think about it that historical science and experimental science differ. In experimental science, you can do experiment to confirm your hypothesis. Historical science, you can't repeat history. How? It's gone. You can't recreate the universe. You can't recreate Big Bang. You can't bring back a dinosaur and say, okay, here is a dinosaur. Okay, let's study the dinosaur. You can't. You can study a goat, but you can't study a dinosaur. It's gone. So all your theories, they are experimental science and historical science are two different things. They come from two different areas. People confuse these two things. As a historical science, it has a description of the phenomena. It developed a general theory, and then those theories are applied to certain facts. Okay? So this is the three ingredients of this historical process. And the construction of hypotheses we already gone through. These are all value-laden, meaning a hypothesis is not constructed just out of nowhere. It is based on your value system. What your value is, what your belief is based on that. Here they give you an example of the the crater back in Mexico, and is supposed to have been the cause of the extinction of the dinosaurs. Well, guess what? I didn't include it here. There's still conflicting ideas about it. Whether it is a fact, it is not a fact, how it happened, not happened, there's a big story about that. So what are the sources of evidence for paleontology? So the basics are fossils, which are body fossils, like big fossils, and trace fossils. These are one of the things. If you see here, look at the things that are underlined. This is what you will not be highlighted when you are listening about dinosaurs and all that. Estimating the dates of these remains is essential but difficult. So if it is a difficult process, do you think you can arrive at something with certainty? No. There's a jigsaw puzzle, different things happen at the same time, right? And then people try to fit that picture. But that picture is based on, on their value system, on their beliefs. You will see along as we go on, you will see what this is about. Sometimes they don't fit well into any category. The researcher has to, try to frame those things, fix it, fix it. You do, woodworking and sometimes it doesn't, you just fix it. It works, right? If you know the word, right? Yeah. Just fix it, continue. There's this whole new concept of phylogenetics. Well, guess what? It's based on a molecular clock. It's based on some fossil index. We'll come to that. If the molecular clock that you are, if it is wrong, then everything is wrong. If you're based on certain thing and if that is not correct, what happens? Next, here's the body fossils. Body fossils, look at this. Fossilization is a rare event. Fossilization is a rare event. So think about this way. If there were 100 organisms that died, probably is out of that 100, a small part of one of them is fossilized. And out of that small part, you are going to reconstruct the 100 picture of the 100. This is what it means.
If your 1% means...
Not 1%. I didn't even say 1%. I said if there were 100 organisms that died, let's look at it.
You have to come up with a percentage. For instance, 0.01%.
0.01%.
Multiplied
Yes.
by 10 million.
Think about it. I'll come to that, this thing. But think, it's a rare event. It doesn't happen. It only happens rarely. It's once in a blue moon. It's very incomplete. It's destroyed. Look at what the author continues. Despite all these problems, it is often adequate. Just think about it. If I give you one quote, just let's put it in context. If I give you a quote about a hadith and it's a fragment, do you know how the secular world would react to you? With just one fragment? It's out of context. That would be the first charge. What is the context of that statement, right? Look at it. There are also biases in the fossil record. These are not the same bias that we discussed before. These are biases meaning that intrinsically certain types of animals are prone to be fossilized versus some are not. For example, anything that is non-vertebrate will not be fossilized. So the record of that will never be available to you. So you have a bias towards vertebrate fossilization, meaning vertebrate, with bones. What happened to plants? No idea. So 2/3 have never been found as fossils. Look, they admit that. This is from Robert de Graaf. He's the chairman or whatever position is called, Institute for Advanced Studies in Princeton. This is where big professors, professors who are above and beyond, caliber. They don't teach. They just go there and sit down. Like Einstein was there, Gödel was there. Those kind of people are Oppenheimer and all these people who are there. So, what does he say about less than 1% of animal species have been fossilized? So out of that 1%, we are being asked to accept that out of that 1%, less than 1%, you can reconstruct the picture of the previous times.
So dinosaur is one of the examples of
1%.
1% of what? Of part of the body? 1%?
No,
Or
1% of the fossil, like if 100 species were around, less than 1% of that is fossilized.
so that doesn't stop you finding a complete fossil.
That doesn't stop, no.
So it doesn't make sense then.
Why doesn't it make sense? If you found, let's say you found one.
If you make 100 plates of rice, right, and you lost 99.9, but little remaining, I can tell you, taste it, how it feels, how it tastes.
Okay, very good. Okay, now let me ask you this.
No, but
no, hold on. The whole world is destroyed. Okay, this like right now, you discover one small.
Rice.
Forget about rice. New York. You discover one apartment in New York, and then you say the whole world was like New York.
Forget about the whole world. At least I can tell you one apartment looked like that.
But that's not what the whole problem is. Is if you are just specific that apartment looks like that, who's arguing with you on
That's
that?
the problem. I mean,
The problem is when you
dinosaur.
say Karachi, the apartment in Karachi in 1944 was like this. Then you have a problem. This apartment was also the same one as in Ibadan, Nigeria.
So you're not denying dinosaur existence of dinosaurs.
Of course not. So let me just. I should have started with this one. At this time, we are not denying evolution. We are not denying that dinosaurs exist. We are not denying that science is valid. All we are saying is we are asking questions.
So the dinosaur which they show in the movies, especially Jurassic Park,
Okay.
right, and other books, when you buy books over the shelf, of dinosaurs, and there are multiple species in that, right?
Okay.
And that's now it has been taught that 65 million years ago they used to walk on Earth.
It has been established.
It has-
Very good word.
So now the thing is, and it has been taught. It has been taught.
So let's go on. I will answer your questions. Let's go on.
Okay.
Those things are in the presentation coming. So just put this in mind that less than 1% of fossils have been fossilized. And out of that, we will see how many complete.
It doesn't make a difference.
I don't know how it doesn't make a difference. It makes a big difference to me.
So there were 100 people, 99 died, one remained.
Yes.
But you can tell, okay, he has 2 arms, 2 legs, he has
But-
nose, he has eyes.
But
Yes,
that's
feelings,
the
yes,
point I'm trying to
hair.
say.
I think
But the point, I believe his point is, if you have a
One human left out of 100 humans.
no, not only human. The other example which he gave, one apartment from New York, right? So you cannot construct
Apply.
out of that one apartment
Yeah.
from New York. You cannot construct the whole world.
Who's constructing the whole world?
But that's the whole thing. That's the whole story about paleontology. You are giving me a whole picture of the world. That if a dinosaur was found here, You are telling me that the dinosaur is, is in America, it's in U.S. and it's in India. India was halfway across the, in South America. And
So are you telling me that they did not find fossils in South America, in India?
Of course they can find. I can find an apartment. I can find an apartment in New York, and I can find an apartment in Lagos, Nigeria. And then, there are two different things apart. I can construct a lot of theories. Hold on, let's go on, and then you will see what I'm saying. What
I think you
scientists
should have told that first, before now that we are. You
Let's
should have
continue.
discussed the theories first, then you should have come up with some conclusion, because you are putting some conclusions there.
I'm not putting conclusions. I'm putting what people are thinking. So the trace fossils. These are trace. You know what are trace fossils?
You said 1% is found. Who is denying that? Who says no 1%?
So our question is, what information can you extrapolate from that 1%?
The information which is available.
But what information? Let me ask you.
You identify,
Let me
this
ask you a
information is false. Okay.
Okay, let me ask you this. Tomorrow,
leaving us to assume that,
let me see.
since 1% is false,
Okay, let me ask you.
99%
Let me
is
put it
lie.
another way.
Don't understand.
Let me give you another example. Tomorrow, I hire you as a detective because my house got robbed, burgled. You see a footprint outside the window, right? It was wet, and there's a footprint outside the window. What information can you extract from that footprint?
It depends on the level of my investigation skills.
You are Sherlock Holmes.
Don't worry, then I'm going to find that guy.
Oh,
The question
so
is,
listen.
you
What?
identify
Okay, let me give
what
you.
part of information
for
is
the sake of
false.
it.
Instead of letting me assume,
Let me
since
finish.
it's 1%,
Let me finish.
so I'm supposed to 99% is false.
I didn't say that. So out of that footprint, what you can't look. So there are three things out of those footprints. Three things that you can be done. One is fact. One is conjecture, and the third one is speculation.
Assumptions.
No, speculation. Pure speculation. Okay, I'll give you example of a fact. A fact will tell you the size of the shoe. So you can say, how.
Size, sole, other stuff can be found.
Some.
Maybe mud was there, maybe blood stains were there. So
No, I just footprint. Don't put anything else. Just footprint. No blood stain. Just
Then
footprint.
he's not Sherlock Holmes.
It's not Sherlock Holmes. Okay. Okay. So now
No, but the more you go into details, you can find more things.
I'm coming to that. Okay. So you can find the size of the shoe. Then you can gauge whether it's. Now you can hypothesize that it can be a male or a female.
Okay.
Reasonable.
Yeah.
No problems in
But there
that.
are signs in male female shoes.
So no reasonable, right?
Yeah.
No problems with that.
Yeah.
Now was it a black man or a white man or a yellow man? Now tell me.
We don't know.
Can you know? The question is
No.
just based on the
Ask
footprint.
that person, has he got any evidence for that? If he say yes, evaluate the
So
evidence.
if it's in
Instead of
Nigeria,
assuming
No, see that
that
this
he concluded that on base of assumption.
If it's in Nigeria,
hold
there is
on,
a black man.
No. So, very good.
Depends
Very good.
Yeah.
The footprint.
assumptions.
Hold on.
So white man cannot commit burglary in Nigeria.
The footprint alone cannot tell you the color of the person.
Absolutely.
You have to have external knowledge.
Absolutely.
So the thing is, anybody denied that we just.
I think both are on the same page.
Let's go on. I think we're just unnecessarily going on this thing. Let's go continue.
Sherlock Holmes.
So these are these trace fossils are fossils that are inside, rocks, imprints, and then like that you had I don't know whether you guys saw that thing, the meteorite from Mars that has trace signature of life. It could be inorganic thing. It has never been decided. So geochronology is how you date these things. So typically, look at the hurdles. People only talk about carbon dating, established. Look at the problems. I'm just stating the problems that I encountered while trying to date something. So typically, if you see here, fossils lack radioactive elements. That's the basis of radiometric dating. Fossils don't have radioactive, bodies. It is the rocks that they are embedded in have radioactive radioactivity. You see the point I'm saying? So the problem is this: if a fossil is embedded in a rock, how do you know that the rock and the fossil happen at the same time? You have to make a leap of assumption.
So the 65 million years is exemption.
No, I didn't say that. I said if a fossil is found in a rock, and that rock is dated to 65 million years ago, how do you know that the fossil was embedded in the rock 65 million years ago? For a fact.
So who says it's assumption?
I didn't say any assumption. You are saying assumption. I'm saying, can you 100% ascertain that is the fossil 65 million years ago? No. Fossils don't have radioactive elements. It is the rock that has.
Where rock gets those radioactive elements?
Naturally, rocks. Some rocks have radioactive elements in them. Not all rocks. Like uranium or something is embedded in there.
So based on rock, you estimate that it's 65,000 years ago.
Right. So this is the assumption that you are not assumption. Sorry. This
But
is
what
what
that has to do with the fossil.
Okay. This is a rock. This is a fossil.
These both are attached to you.
Both are attached together.
So you actually calculate.
Okay. What are you dating?
Rock. So how do you know when it came to attach to it?
Yes. How do you know?
So that's what
Based
the
on
question
rock.
That's the question. That's what we are saying here.
Or we are challenging these questions.
How do you know that?
We are not establishing and agreeing that what they are saying, but this is question.
No,
we
but
have
the
to
thing
do.
is, this is what I'm hearing first time, that it's not the fossil that has been carbon dated, it's the rock that has been carbon dated.
I don't. That's what I just said. These are the challenges to the method is never discussed.
No, the thing is, just a minute, carbon dating is for organic matter, right?
Okay.
Organic matter.
Okay.
Whereas radioactive has no carbon in it.
Where did we say carbon dating here? We are talking about radioactive dating here,
Okay.
right?
So your point is the theory.
Even the carbon dating or all radiocarbon dating, they are dependent on what assumption? Can anyone tell me? What is the assumption on all radioactive methods?
The half-life?
Half-life. And what is half-life? Half-life is basically you are saying, you are observing today the ratio between two isotopes of a substance to be constant. In the case of carbon, it's carbon 12 and carbon 14. You are saying carbon 12 and carbon 14 today, if organic matter dies, the rate decay is X amount. Now you are making a point here, assumption that this was also true 65 million years ago. You can't prove it. That's your starting point. You can't prove that point. You are actually starting with this, that today it's this, therefore it was like that before. How? What proof do you have? But you can't prove that with using carbon 14. You have to actually go somewhere else, and so on and so forth.
So this question never been put up in front of these guys?
It is. It is an open question.
So what answers they came up with?
There's a lot of answers. This topic is not for that. This presentation is not for that. But yes, these questions. Does it mean that everybody is hiding?
Carbon
No.
dating is very fundamentally related to fossils.
Very. Not only any radio isotope measurement is fundamentally related, and there are open epistemic questions on those things.
So you're saying the theories and the methods, we are questioning them.
Yes.
What basis they put
Yes.
it. That's your main point, is to raise the question.
I'm not questioning them. I'm just highlighting this methodology.
Okay.
So you can then ask the
Ponder.
questions.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
It's not for us. I am not an expert. I am just pointing out to you guys, look, these are the things that happen.
But you can think on this direction too.
Most people, like just Dr. Fawad says, they don't know about these things.
Now some people challenging that, which you are thinking on this direction too.
Most people only think about paleontology in terms of two things. Either is you accept it in theory of evolution, right? Or you think of in terms of creationists, right? This is what you think. Okay, so what is the time?
11:45.
Okay, so let's go on. We spent a lot of time here. So I hope this is clear. The other point here is rock sequences are not continuous. So if this is a rock, this is a fossil, there's another rock here, this rock could be older, this rock could be younger than that rock, or this, vice versa. They are not continuous.
So that means that the rock layer on top of the fossil obviously came after fossil.
What is obvious about it? There's nothing obvious. In science, there's nothing obvious. You have to prove it for a fact. If you can't, then that's what is called assumption.
Okay, the fossil is between two rocks, right?
I didn't say that.
Let's
I
assume.
said this is a rock, this is a rock, this is a rock.
Okay, there are two.
This fossil is embedded here.
This fossil is not hanging in the air, right?
No, it's
It has
not.
to be
Yeah,
another
fine.
rock.
Forget
So
about
you
the bottom one.
Take the age of two rocks and you get the age of the
That's
fossil.
what they said. But that's not also true. Why? Because you are making an assumption. Supposing this rock is older than this rock, or this rock is younger than this rock, and you have this doesn't have the radioactive material, this one has, then what is going to happen? Open your mind, ask questions. You will see it's not easy. That picture that you just painted, that this is between two rocks and I have dated them, is not that simple. If you start challenging them, you will see the problems. This is what I'm saying. You don't know, therefore you can't challenge it. This is not obvious. Okay, let's look at the third point. It is very difficult to match up rock beds that are not directly next to one another. In fact,
Bani Israel also asked so many questions about the cow.
if they can ask if they can ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala those questions, why are you shy to ask this kind of questions?
And they get trouble after asking so many questions.
But inshallah, when you ask this one, you get relief.
Relief, okay.
That was Allah.
So for them, it's fine. We need to ask questions.
Such index fossil must be distinctive. There's a fossil index. We talked about molecular clock. There are fossil index fossils against which you date them. So, for instance, there's a fossil A. We say this is index because it is found so many places, and this fossil is supposed to be, say, 25 million years ago, right? Oh, I forgot about that one. Yeah, just remember now. Okay. So now let me ask you this: if I find this fossil with another fossil somewhere else, say Antarctica, and I know I have established that this is 25 million years ago, right? I will conclude that this is also 25 million years ago, right?
Yeah, we assume, yeah.
Right? Am I wrong?
No.
Now, if this one turns out to be false,
That will be wrong
then
too.
this was wrong too.
Yeah.
This is what he's talking about, index fossils. The mechanism, if one is wrong, the others will go wrong again. Okay, next one. Here is this thing. So let's just backtrack here and this was the methods. So this was some open questions I just gave you here. I cannot do justice to this topic here because this is, in 1 hour we cannot go through all these things. Let's look at history of paleontology. This is more interesting for the layman. Okay? So this is nothing new. So before we continue, I have a question for you. From all these examples that we see, especially this, fossils have been found since ancient times, right? The Greeks knew them, the Chinese knew them, the Indians knew them, the Muslims knew about them. What is different from that time and today's time? So let me just pause here. So
We'll pause.
let them show.
Analytical.
Okay. So we were saying. So just remember this thing, that fossils is nothing new. The only thing is interpretations have changed. The value on those fossils, the value, what moral, what judgment you can get out of there. Right? That's what's changing. Ibn Sina wrote extensively. You know who is Ibn Sina, right? Everybody knows Ibn Sina.
In a positive way.
Right? He wrote about fossils. His theory was actually accepted for almost 300 years. His theory on the fossils was accepted for 300 years. Till it was changed in the modern times. So, I'm not going to answer this question, but I'm giving you this question so that you can keep thinking about it when we come to the end of it. Why is it that fossils are playing such an important part in today's modern thought? Think about it as we go along. Okay? Right? Okay. Next, let's go next one here. You missed the first part. So, this word paleontology was actually invented in 1822. No one knew about paleontology, the word itself, prior to that. Okay? So, let me emphasize this thing for here so that everybody understands why I'm saying that. When a word is invented, that means some social conditions must have changed. I'll give you an example so that people can understand. Selfie was not known before 2014. Yeah? Something around that. Now selfie came about. It came about through a process. Somebody just didn't sit down and say, today I will call this selfie. There was something going on around the world, technologically, politically, socially, culturally, legally, and then this word came out. This is what I'm trying to say. Paleontology, the word somebody just didn't say, today, you know what? I will invent this word. No, it doesn't happen that way. Things happen. Things happen. Right? You get what the point I'm trying to say here? So, what we are just saying, the natural philosophy, the science of that time, encouraged alternative explanations for the origin of fossils. If you can see here in this thing, people had different ideas about what fossils are and how they came about. Giants and ghosts and jinns and, depending on their worldview point. During the age of reason, fundamental change happened. Okay? We'll address this later on. So the first interesting thing in the history of paleontology is bone wars. I don't know if anyone here has heard about the bone wars. I don't think anyone has. So bone wars was basically a competition between two scientists, Edward Winkle Cope and Othniel Charles Marsh. Each of them was known as E.D. Cope and O.C. Marsh. This was how they are known. These were the most, these people are the ones who have played the most prominent part in the fossil world today. The fossil, not, the study, we're talking about fossils, like digging up the fossils, presenting it. These are the two key figures. Between them, I think they extracted 156 fossils, I can't remember. And, that's a huge amount for two people to do that. But both of them hated each other. And they hated each other, I cannot go into that. Several books, movies have been constructed on this thing. So this is like a separate, if you want to talk about this, it's like a separate topic altogether. And they used bribery, theft, coercion, every kind of thing, you name it, they used against each other. They used every kind of thing, writing the wrong thing. Not, like in the scientific journal, because of the eagerness to be the first to do it, they made serious errors, mistakes, malicious ones sometimes, outright fraud, just so that they can be the first one to claim, this thing. That's the bone wars. I don't think anybody understood that. People think, I dig up this thing and I'm neutral and, I'm so, honest and, I will present the facts. This is the reality. This is the founders of fossils. So what is this saying? If such be the priest, God bless the congregation. Right? If such people are the ones who are digging up, if they are immodest, corrupt, morally corrupt,
And they have blind trust in these people.
if these are the people who are going to present you these views and you are going to accept them, then God bless you.
Yeah.
Let's look at this dinosaur here. This is called the Brontosaurus. This dinosaur, I have personal experience with this because this was my favorite dinosaur. Okay, so
Why?
it'd be huge, and the way it was written. Oh, huge and blah 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 blah. Oh my goodness, I was
the most innocent.
wow. Yes, he's most innocent, and chubby eyes, and what was it? I was 12 years old when I came across this, and anyway, so I can't. Okay, so what is the reality of this Brontosaurus? Let's look at it. Let's look at the reality of this Brontosaurus. I'm just taking a snapshot. Remember, this is highlights. I can't go into details. Forget extinct. The Brontosaurus never even existed. This is
Really?
yes. Okay. And this is the headline. If you go and read the paper, it's so interesting to read. It's marvelous. Okay. When you talking about how okay. Then some years later, the Brontosaurus is back. This was when? This was 2012. Okay. 2015 is back. Oh no, we made a mistake. It should exist.
The opposite.
Just think about this, brothers. Brothers, wait. Think about it. If a alim just said something wrong today or right today and contradicted himself tomorrow, you know what that will be in the media?
He loses his credibility.
Forget about his credibility. No, the religion loses credibility. Forget about his credibility.
It will challenge
Am I wrong?
Yes.
Have you ever guys heard about this?
No. Did not highlight it.
Why? Okay, and the story of this thing is very interesting.
Is it
Initially,
the same writer? Different.
no, this is different magazines.
Someone.
So let me give you. It will be coming across what happened. So Marsh was the actual one who discovered this Brontosaurus. Marsh, remember the guy, the dude. You know what I was talking about. In his haste, so he discovered. This is what. Where's Brother Fawad? He was asking this question. He has left. Okay. So he discovered the fossil headless. At the same time, he discovered two other fossils. He attached the skull of one on them and called it Brontosaurus. This is actual happened. This is actual. And
Mix and match.
This happened in 1879. O.C. March did that. In 1903, the mistake was discovered, and then that this is wrong. And then what happened? In 2015 or 2014, another study was done. It said, no, we made a mistake. And let's look at the study, the new study that was done. Let's look at how careful these people are. So this 300-page study analyzed 477 different physical features of 81 sauropod specimens. You might think this is something big I'm talking about. Let's continue on our presentation. You will see what this 81 species specimen really mean. Let's look at it later on. Okay. The fossil on which, but he is saying, the guy who doesn't accept the study, this 300-page study, he said, but you didn't study the main fossil. Why? You studied all that, but you didn't study the main fossil? Why? I'm not going to buy it. He says, maybe, but I think the verdict is still out. I'm not going to accept that the Brontosaurus is back. Huh? So, what does he conclude with? He says, in other words, research that helped resurrect Brontosaurus may have birthed new mysteries as well. You know what that translates to, brothers? You know what that means? It means basically, we went to ask a question, but instead of answering the questions, we came back with more questions. This is what it means. But that is not how it is written. That's not how it is written. So this boy, he reads this, he says, oh, wow, the scientists are doing great work. Right? Let's continue here. So let's look at 10 huge mix-ups in paleontology now. We just talked about one Brontosaurus never existed. These are the 10 big ones. I'm not even talking about minor ones here right now. Okay? A fossil was found in West Virginia, and it was sent to President Jefferson because he was a avid collector of fossils. And he came up and says, you know what this is? This is a giant cat. Blah, 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 blah. Okay? Turns out he was wrong. It was a giant sloth. You know the difference between a cat and a sloth? A cat is, you know how fast cat is? It's the exact opposite of fast. A sloth takes about 6 hours to move from the bottom of the tree to the top of the tree, or vice versa. 6 hours. They sleep more than 18 hours a day. So an opposite of a cat would be a sloth. Do you see how wrong you can be? Where's Brother Fawad?
Yeah.
He's talking, you can get a footprint of a person, but to extrapolate other information is difficult. He wanted to display the marsh-fitted one specimen with the skull found nearby and the other with the skull he found in Colorado. Boom. Voila, that was Brontosaurus. This is how Brontosaurus came about. And this is the one that, this is the dinosaur that, my kids and your kids are, they shove down the throat.
So who's challenging to Marshall this statement?
Sorry?
Who's challenging to Marshall?
Who
Who passed this statement that Marshall actually found one?
No, that was, the writer who's writing this.
Okay.
So that was Brontosaurus. Let's continue here. Do we have, can I move from here? Oh, yeah. There's another one called Elsamosaurus. This was even more interesting. Actually, this caused big problem with Marsh and the co. What he did in his rush to do this thing, he placed the tail, in place of the tail, he put it in the neck. So it looked like a long neck dinosaur. And then the people made fun of him. He said, what did you do? So he had to, can you imagine that? The tail and the leg? Has anyone heard about it? No. Think about it. If Ali makes a mistake today, what happens? Before the day is over, you have like five WhatsApp messages. So next one we have, look at this one. This is another interesting one. A single fossil was found, a single tooth was found in Nebraska. Okay? And this guy, Henry Ford Osborne, who is the president of the American Museum of Natural History, naturally a big person, based on that single tooth, this is what they reconstructed. And it turned out to be that this was actually a gorilla or something, I don't remember, a pig. I think it was a pig's teeth. It was a pig's teeth, as an ancient pig. Some of these, very interesting, these are some depictions among the mushriks. They had their gods like this. And the fossils are like this. What does it tell you? What does it tell you? I leave these things to you guys. You don't. The problem is we don't ask this question. We don't know, so we can't ask these questions. Let's next go. Herodotus and still food. In the pyramids they found something, and Herodotus, the Greek historian, he thought these are lentils. People ate it and threw it there. Now scientists say no, these are trace fossils. Okay. This is another lady in red. There was this bishop who found a skeleton, in his back, in his area. And, he thought it was because of Noah's flood, he was a bishop, right? But now modern science says, no, is a woman, is a man, and, he was, So what I'm trying to say is, interpretation changes based on your viewpoint. What viewpoint? The guy had a viewpoint of Noah's flood. He takes that. Today you have a different viewpoint. I don't know. 200 years from now, what would the viewpoint will be? This one I'll just skip it because we have kids around here, so just leave that one here. Okay. And Iguanodon, this is another big, dinosaur that is, thrown around. Everything was wrong about this thing. It was supposed to be walking on all fours. It turned out to be, now it is bipedal. It has on its nose. they pointed a horn on its nose, but actually it turned out to be its thumb. That's what they say. I don't know tomorrow what it will be. Today, I don't know. Okay, so there was a big fight with who claimed discovery on this fossil between the wife of the paleontologist and the wife himself. They had a big and they divorced each other. So that's the sociological aspect of these things. Nobody talks about this. Okay. This is one that we can skip this one. Now look at how interpretations of dinosaurs have changed since Victorian times, when the 16th century, when they started studying. This is one dinosaur. This is how it was depicted, and now this is how it's depicted. So this is the Brontosaurus. Remember, it never existed. It existed. It never existed. Flip flop. So this is what's happening. Now the reconstruction is like this. Okay. This is how a Megasaurus looks like. Okay. And this is how it looks like now. Look at this. Compare this. On fours. See? Fundamental difference. Fundamental. And I mean, you can't even say that this and this is the same thing. Unless someone, I tell you, or someone tells me, I don't know that these are the same thing.
It's a different kind of dinosaur.
Iguanodon, look at this. And look at this. Do they look similar? Look at the posture.
The question is, if they had a fossil so much years, why is it different?
We will come to that. We'll come to that.
So from the previous picture, they have made the T-Rex now.
Look at this. This is the first time Stegosaurus was depicted, like this. Then it changed to this, and now it is this.
Fashion are changing.
Right, fashions are changing. Megasaurus. This is how it looks like initially, and this is how it looks like later on, and now. The whole thing is it doesn't, that's not, this is how it looks like now, I believe. This is how it looks like now.
Long tail.
Okay? Look at this. This is how it looked like. Okay? This is, actually this creation is of an artist, not even a scientist. Okay? And this is how it looks like now.
So it lost in the interpretation of a scientist and an artist.
Yeah. This is how it looks like. Aquatic Brontosaurus. Okay? And this assumption, as we know, is now incorrect. Okay? So this is T-Rex, the most famous one of them. See, this is how it looked like initially, and in Jurassic Park, it looks like this. Huh? But who knows, in 20 or 30 years, we will be laughing at how goofy we were ever to think of this thing.
Do you think so? Or will be more goofy?
So my word, no. Someone's gonna decline.
But because he has confidence in computer modeling and blah blah blah, so he says, no, we should be good.
Depend on business, how much money you make for you.
Give you more examples of how things have gone wrong. Look, this is from what, 2009? Natural History Museum Sauropod exhibit anatomically wrong. Okay? This is in a museum, it was wrong. Okay? From BBC, wrong. This guy, this is a 10-year-old guy who pointed out,
Better.
this is wrong. Okay? From New York Times. This is wrong.